Hi there, and welcome to Best of Preps Pigskin Picks. I'm Matt Hickman, joined by Herald Review sports editor Bruce Wetton. As always, and Bruce, we have one full week in the books now for high school football in Cochise County. Let's do a quick little rundown before we get into this upcoming week game. Who really stood out last week for you?
Really, who stood out was our hometown Buena Colts. They go on the road to Betty Fairfax, and they prevailed by a score of 68-19. I knew Buena was good, but that score was a little bit worse than I thought, Matt.
Yeah, Nash Moore, 5 touchdowns, 8 pass attempts, 7 completions, 5 touchdowns. Just lit it up all over the place.
231 yards.
231 yards. They pointed it on the ground to 100 yards from Scrappy Bonilla, 71 from Michael Lujan. They each had a couple touchdowns. So it was a really strong effort from Buena.
The undertold story on this thing was that was Joe Thomas's 50th career win as a head coach, counting 3 years at Tombstone and 7 years at Buena. So congratulations, Coach. Way to go. You're halfway to 100.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. So, obviously this week, the big one is Bisbee Douglas. Let's go back to last week and how each of those teams did.
Sure.
Let's start with Douglas.
Douglas had this was a game I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. In the first quarter, I thought, wow, Douglas came prepared. In all my years of covering sports, I'd never seen a team like Douglas dominate the first quarter the way they did. Douglas took the opening drive of the game. They drove 80 yards in about 3.5 minutes and scored 7-0 Douglas. So I was like, okay, that was a nice little time-consuming drive. They kick off to ALA. One play later, 70 yards, boom, ALA's in the end zone. We're tied 7-7. So at 8:30 to go in the first quarter, Douglas gets the ball back. They use up the rest of the clock in the first quarter, putting together another 80-yard drive that ended on the first play of the second quarter with a 1-yard TD run. So for that first quarter, ALA had the ball just 15 seconds.
Yes. What did the final score end up being in that?
52-21.
52-21. Wow.
Once ALA got going, well, ALA against Douglas, they ran for 445 yards. They threw for 185, and they held Douglas at 200 yards in total offense.
Well, that is a scary thought going against a pretty strong Bisbee team this week, but we'll get to that later. Bisbee, they had a big win.
Oh, this game was another one. I thought it would be a little bit closer than what it was, but Coach Carlos Lopez got his first win at Bisbee High School. Congratulations, Coach. Final score was 67-7 over Madison Highland. Sebastian Lopez, our last year's Player of the Year for Herald Review, 12 of 22 in passing, 168 yards, 3 TDs, and an interception. And he also had 3 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
But the big story was Bryson Meyer, 12 carries, 114 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, Bisbee absolutely has some weapons, and in the next episode, we'll talk a little bit about the look ahead to that game. But let's move it on up Highway 90 there, as it were. Let's go to Benson. I was at Benson last week for their game against Phoenix Christian. Really interesting game. Benson came out really nervous, dropping passes, fumbling balls, could not move the ball at all.
And I thought being home, they'd be energized, Matt.
It's not that they weren't energized. The crowd was good. I think they were just nervous or something. And they were dropping passes, and they were in danger of getting blown out. But their defense really held the back line, and they went into halftime down 22-6. It could have been a lot worse than that. They came out and completely dominated the second half, shut out Phoenix Christian, cut it to 22-20 with a chance to tie it with 5 minutes to go. On a 2-point conversion, missed the 2-point conversion, got the ball back again. Defense stopped him again on inches away on a 4th down play. And they drove it down to the 10-yard line. And on 4th and 8 from the 10, quarterback Dawson Judd was sacked. They were 1 play away, though, from winning that game with a minute and a half left. Dawson Judd, an amazing game. He also had a pick 6 on defense. So he's really got that team headed in the right direction, junior quarterback.
Well, he had a TD rushing and a TD passing last week. And, we've been hearing about him in the offseason, and I guess he's going to be one of the players to watch this year.
Absolutely. He's definitely got that team headed in the right direction. Well, let's go down I-10 a little bit and talk about Wilcox. How'd they do last week?
Wilcox was a shocker here. I really thought they were going to win this game, and they ended up losing to Tonopah Valley 65-20. But in this game, Wilcox running back Landon Ward, 12 carries, 220 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So he was the lone bright spot of the team. But from what I was talking with people after the game, they said Tonopah Valley's for real.
Yeah.
And they said, watch out. They're going to be winning a lot of games this year. So the fact is they put 65 on Wilcox. It surprised me, but it didn't surprise a lot of other people. So that was kind of the shocker. But Probably the biggest disappointment of the weekend, and I hate to say it about a team, was Tombstone.
Mm.
Tombstone was scheduled to play on Thursday, and due to the field situation, the game was moved to Friday. And Tombstone goes up to
Scottsdale Christian, right?
Heritage Academy.
Yeah.
And the game was played at Scottsdale Christian. And they got off the bus, and they were not in sync from the time they stepped off the bus, and they lost a heartbreaker by a score of 7-6.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had them winning that game because they won handily last year at home. And in that game, DJ Elias was 9 of 17 for 117 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions, but he did have a TD rushing on 11 carries for 41 yards. Jemiah Wallace, 15 carries, 82 yards. So I didn't see Tombstone losing that game. I actually saw them winning that game, and they're going to be at home Friday night. And I had them being 2-0 at this point. Well, now they're just looking to get that first win.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be interesting. I mean, obviously, the delay in the schedule couldn't have helped. Still, that's just not only to lose, but to really only put one touchdown on the board.
Well, and especially in the manner in which they did, because when I talked to Coach on Saturday, he said he really thought the day off wasn't going to hurt them, and it did. And he said, looking back, he wished he had played it on Thursday. But again, the field was what it was. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, St. David had this game delayed from Friday to Saturday. They tried to get it to Thursday. They couldn't. They tried to get it on Saturday morning, and they couldn't because of the lack of officials. So they played Saturday night. And I get there, and for being a Saturday night game at St. David, I showed up and the parking lot's full. The band's there, the cheerleaders are there, the fans are there. And St. David comes out in 15 seconds into the game. They're scoring. 45 seconds into the game, they're up 2 scores.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the first quarter, they're up 22-0. And at halftime, 63-0. And I asked the coach when the game was over, I said, so did that day off hurt you or help you? He said, it actually helped us because we got rained out on Wednesday. And they gave them an extra day to prepare. So Friday was actually their Thursday. And it worked out. So I guess it just depends on the team. It depends on the situation. And maybe the fact is, had St. David gone on the road, things would have been better Tombstone. But
sure. Well, yeah, and I mean, so I guess that takes us to, speaking of Thursday. So last Thursday we had Berean, the state champions of the Canyon Athletic. They moved up a league, right? And they ran into the champions from the league they moved up into. And boy, did they find out it's another league, huh?
I was so impressed with Mesa's quarterback. This guy was big and he had a gun, and he's an actually legitimate D1 prospect. And there was speculation at the game. I don't know how true it is, that he is going to go to a D1 school, and they talked about BYU, which wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, I was impressed with his athletic ability. But nothing against Berean. They were scrappy. And, when I talked to Coach after the game, he said, we'll bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, one loss does not a season make, as we talked about before. And he said, we played the best first. And I also liked what he said after the game, where he said, this team's going to be in the finals, and they're going to need an opponent. Mm-hmm. So why not have it be us?
Why not us? Absolutely. Well, I think that it takes us around the bend in Cochise County. I don't think we left anyone out there. Valley Union was off last week,
and then of course ALA Sierra Vista made its debut, and they went to Gila River Skyline, and they were shut out 44-0. No stats or information from that game, so it's going to be a rough start for ALA Sierra Vista this year. We expect that.
Yeah, obviously just planting seeds there, so we'll kind of see how they go and what kind of progress.
I think this year's kind of just I wouldn't say a write-off year, but just kind of a get the feel year, and then come in next year and see what happens.
We'll see what they do. There's a lot of other quality ALA programs around the state. So if you're watching this, come back. We're gonna have a later separate version where we preview all the upcoming games. This is our review of last week, so we're gonna cut these all separately, and you can watch all the reviews of each individual game on our YouTube page and at myheraldreview.com. But for the recap of week 1 of the prep football season, I'm Matt Hickman. He's Bruce Wetton. Thanks for watching.